everyone. Today I am back with days 2, 3,
Hi everyone, hope you
and
are
4
doing
in
well.
my December
Today I
daily,
have
and I
days
wanted
2,
to
3,
and 4 to share with you. They were relatively quick, so I just combined all 3 days into one video this time. And this is the first side of the layout that I'm working on right here. This is day 2. I have typed all my journaling up. I just did this on my vintage typewriter on some cream colored cardstock. And what I'm doing now is just trimming it out, and then I'm going to punch the edge because I wanted to give it kind of like this like Rolodex or notebook type of punch edge to it. And then I'm just going to ruffle it up and just kind of make it look a little worn. Excuse me. And then I'm also going to take my scissors and I'm just going to rough all the edges. And I just like how that gives it kind of some texture and dimension to otherwise would be kind of flat. And I thought that would look nice with a little bit of that extra texture. So that is what it looks like. And now I am taking some vintage ephemera that I have. This little snowman I thought was perfect because I have the picture of the snowman on the right hand side with the elf. And I thought he worked perfect because it was kind of the same colors and everything. It had a green scarf, a black hat, and a little red band around his little hat. So I thought that was perfect. These are just some strips that I had. They are offcuts from a page that I had done previously, and I thought it would look good to add them here to the bottom of this just to kind of anchor it so it didn't look like it was floating so much. And I decided on the green and white and then the red and white polka dot. And then I thought it just needed a little bit more gold to bring the gold from that vintage piece that's on the top left card. I brought that gold piece of washi, and then I wanted to use some gold thread on the layout as well. And I think that just kind of brings the gold down from the top left to the bottom card here. And I'm just going to kind of lay that pretty much like it is there, and I'll add a bunch of glue to the back of my journaling card, and then I'll just kind of glue everything down. And then the number 2 is just a sticker. I think it might have been from maybe a Target dollar spot or something like that from several years ago. I can't quite remember where I got that little number 2 from. So I'm just using a liquid adhesive to add these strips down to the page. Just making sure I kind of like the placement of everything. And then tucking that there. And then I'm going to glue down the journaling. And this is just some Scotch Quick Dry in that bottle. Tucking that in so it doesn't pop out too much. And then I actually will add a little bit of glue to keep it from moving too much in a little bit here. Now those are sticky, but I decided to add a little bit of glue to it to make sure it stayed. And then there, I'm just going to add a couple little dots here and there just to make sure that little thread kind of stays where I want it to. That gold thread is pretty unwieldy, so sometimes it's nice to tack it down a little bit. So this is some washi tape. It already has some backing on it, so I'm just going to pull that backing off and then tuck that up underneath there. And I like how there's 3 different layers of dots, but they're just all different colors. Alright, so that's pretty much that card on the bottom done. Now I'm going to work on that top left 3x4 card. Just going to glue this down here, and then I'll trim off the edge because I wanted it kind of falling off the edge. And then I will rough this little snowman up a bit just to give it the same texture that I have on the bottom layers. Glue that down. And then that's pretty much it. That is pretty much day 2. I will show you some close-ups of everything once I get this trimmed out. Oh, I forgot. I do add a little bit more to the right photo here too. So I did take these little pieces that I had previously embossed, and I just added them to the right hand side, and then I'm going to add a couple snowflakes here to the right hand side as well. These are just some stickers that were left over from a sticker sheet from a previous December daily. There's just going to be 3 little snowflakes that I'll add here to the right. And I just use my tweezers. It helps me place it since there are really little pieces. It's easier to do that with my tweezers. I can just see where it's going a bit better. And there's the last one, so I'll just trim the edges off of those. And that is it for day 2. Next, once I show you some close-ups, I will be working on day 3, which is the right-hand side of this page. I'm going to be using this big chipboard piece here. This is from Michaels, and I'm just going to add some of this detailed gold embossing powder on it, and I'm just going to press that number into the ink, and then I will pour the powder on top of it, and then I'll heat emboss it. Now I do skip forward a little bit. I do mess this up a bit. I was holding with my tweezers and it scratched the surface, so I end up fast forwarding it because I had to fix it and do it a couple times so I could cover some of that up. And actually you can still see it in the end, but what I end up doing is I take some of my embellishments that I'm going to be using and put that on top of it, and you can't even see. So you can see some of that there on that number, but it mostly gets covered up. As you see here, I'm going to start adding some things. So this is just a little piece of a cut apart. I think it was a 4x6 cut apart that had a bunch of little squares on it. I cut that out and I wanted the rounded corner, so I just put that through my little corner chomper there. And then what I'm going to be using on this layout is some of the clear acetate diamonds that you can see here. I got these in an Ellie Edwards kit a couple years ago, and I really struggled using them when I first got them. I don't know, I could not get them to work. Nothing seemed to look right for me. So I wanted to use some of them on this layout, and I like how this looks. So I'm going to put it on the bottom. You can see where I have that joy in the number 3 that covers up that little boo-boo I made. And then I typed all my journaling on vellum, and I'm just going to tear around the edges on the one right side. And then I'm going to keep those diamonds there in the background, and I'm just going to put this piece of journaling on the top of it. And I really like how that looks. And it was a good way to use up those little diamonds that I just wasn't quite sure how to use. So once I get that the way I want, I will start gluing down those diamonds. And I'm just using some liquid adhesive. What I ended up doing is putting the liquid adhesive all over the back and just smearing it down with my finger. And you really can't even see that there's glue on the back of it. So I think that worked out pretty well. It also helps that I am putting that vellum piece on top. It kind of camouflages anything that you might notice if you could see the glue coming through. But really this works pretty well. And it does mask the fact that there is glue down. If you just put like a little dot or something, I think that's when it's going to show a lot more. But because I smeared it over the entire back piece, it looked much nicer. It was kind of messy to do that like this way, but it worked pretty well. And then I'll just trim off that excess here in just a little bit. So now I'm going to work on this bottom piece. I'm just going to glue this down as well. With the chipboard, I wanted to add some liquid glue, and then my tape runner just kind of pulls up the back of the chipboard. So I thought this was our best bet in order to make sure it didn't come up, and then also not to pull that backing off. So you can see I'm just covering everything up. Now I do put a little dot of adhesive here, and it ends up looking okay too. Most of this is getting covered by that joy piece, so you don't really see it. You do see it a little bit, but it's nothing too bad. Just adding a little more glue, and then making sure everything's sticking, and then I will go back and add a couple staples here in a little bit. I'm going to trim off the edge of that diamond, and I really like how that looks. So I will do a little bit more, but you'll see that in a little bit. Now I'm going to work on the top card. I'm going to add that journaling piece on. I am going to use my stapler. I'm just going to add a couple staples there. It will lay flat in the pocket, so I'm not really worried about it curling up like it is. And then I decided I want to do something else to that bottom photo. I thought it was looking a little bland in the bottom left, and I wanted to add a little bit of the story. So in a little bit, you're going to see how I do add a bit more to that bottom photo. So I have that share that is embossed with some gold embossing ink, and then I have this little piece of vellum with my journaling on it. And I like the torn edge, so I am going to just tear that down so it's not as much. And then I'm going to use that share for the most part to kind of hold everything down with the vellum, because it does flop up too, even though I do add the staple. Adding the glue and then adding that to the very top of that vellum piece does kind of help that lay a little bit flatter. And once I get that down, that is it for day 3. So here's some close-ups of day 3, and then I'm going to be moving on to day 4. So day 4 is a 2-page layout. This is a picture of my daughter, our dogs, and then my daughter and her friend. She went over to her friend's house to have her birthday party. And I just cut out those little ornaments. They were from a 4x4 square card, and I just trimmed those out by fussy cutting them, and I'm going to glue them down here in a second. Now my journaling I did add to the Celebrate card. I used the Celebrate because it was my daughter's friend's birthday, so I thought that was a good sentiment at the top, and I just typed that on my vintage typewriter, and I wanted to add a little bit towards the bottom and top just to add some interest to it, so I did pull out my silver washi tape, and I added that to both the top and the bottom of that Celebrate card. Now this ornament I do want to lay completely flat, so I just am gluing that straight to the card. And then the other two, I do want those to pop up a bit, so I am going to take some fun foam and add that to the back and then pop that up. I'll do the fun foam on the back of the ornaments and then also up the edge of those little kind of wet strings. Now I have that number 4. It's a very shiny, kind of metallic silver color. And I will add that I like it right there, but then I do a little bit more to the rest of the layout and I decide to put it over to the right of that 4x6 card instead. But right now I'm going to be pulling out some die cuts, trying to figure out what I can put in this top left. I do change my mind several times. I actually was struggling with this page a bit, could not figure out what embellishments to put on there. So you will see me trying a couple different things until I find what I like. This I am going to end up using this snowflake, and then I am going to pull out a little wood veneer Christmas tree that's green. It's a bit thick, but my album so far is not too thick. I mean, I'm only on day 4 on this at this point, so I decided to use it. If it just gets too thick, then I can always figure something out later. But I think this works cute or works well, and I think it looks cute on that bottom corner. So here you can see I'm messing with that top left hand corner of the photo on the bottom left. And finally I decide that I can anchor that all down with a piece of doily. I just felt like everything was floating, and with the picture there in the background it was just distracting me a lot, so this is a good solution for that, just to add that doily down. I will trim around the edges and then I'm going to glue the die cuts on top of that. And the Joy was a stamp that had a matching die. That's what I used there. And then I'm going to trim everything out. And then I'll use some of these other pieces of doily on the rest of the layout. Specifically, I'll use a piece of it on the striped 4x6 card. So then I decided to add that doily there to add the number. And I kept contemplating, I really liked it there, but I decided ultimately just to put it on the right hand side. Just wanted to bring a little extra texture there to the right hand side of that 4x6 card. And then just to be on the safe side, I am going to glue down that 4 with some liquid adhesive too. And I like how that looked. So now I'm going to work on the picture of my daughter and her friend, just adding that snowflake down and then adding some adhesive to the back of that Christmas tree. Trimming that out. And then I wanted to bring some of that silver over to the left hand side once I find the end of this, and I'll add that just towards the top left of this 4x6 photo here. And I like how that looks, it just brings that shimmery color across the page. So now I wanted to add more of the shimmery pieces, but this washi tape does not stick very well. So I put a little bit of glue stick down, and then I am putting down the washi tape on this piece of paper. And then what I'm going to do is use one of my little punches to punch out several snowflakes. And then I'm going to add those snowflakes to that pink card that has the Christmas tree on it. And this is just a really inexpensive punch that I got from Michael's and those little dollar spots kind of up by the register. And it works really well for this. It's not the best looking snowflake, but it's tiny and it works really well for these kinds of things here, just to add a little extra hint of something. And because I had the silver in 2 places, I really wanted to bring it over in a 3rd place. I just thought that would balance the page out a bit more. So I glued those down. I thought I needed a couple more, so I'm going to cut out a few more here and then glued out those down as well. And I'm almost towards the end. I have just a bit more to do. So while I am finishing this up, I want to thank you guys so much for joining me. If you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up. If you have not already, please subscribe. I would love to have you. If you have any questions or comments you want to leave, make sure you leave those below. I love hearing from you guys and chit-chatting with you guys. And after I finish this 3x4 card, I think that is the end of the layout. Just adding a little bit more of the doily to kind of help that little green star pop up a bit more. And then that is pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you have a great day and I hope you had a wonderful Christmas, and I will be back again soon. Bye everyone.